That is right, baby. We are back. Combine is over. Free agency, franchise tags, all that is right around the corner. But right now, we are getting you to the most accurate mock drafts in the business. Every year we do this. We absolutely kill it. Shout out to Drew for that. I'm your host, Landon Oliver, here with my co host, Drew Scott. And our boy, Big Jared Holly, is unfortunately finishing up some work. He won't be able to join us tonight, but we are taking you through our version 1.0 of the normal. We usually do 3 versions. This is the first version right now. Mock draft for 2024, going through all 32 teams, all 32 picks. Clarify, this is what we think is going to happen. This is not what we would do. This is what we believe
NFL teams will do.
Yeah, and if the actual teams will do, whether that's, what we're hearing through the grapevine, what we anticipate things are going with, like all this stuff. So, yeah, it's just going to be, we're going to get right into it, man. So, Drew, if you want to go ahead, before we get started, just want to ask you, how you doing? Everything going good?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I can't say it's the most wonderful time of the year because football season itself is not here, but it's one of the most wonderful times of the year because we got baseball season on the horizon and we've got NFL draft season, which I know is, one of our favorite times of the year, both you and I, especially with how much work that you do to prepare for this. So I always enjoy chopping it up with you, man. You always give me a ton of insight on all of these prospects because I typically look at these guys just from a fantasy football lens, whereas you put on your NFL hat. So both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, you provide a ton of insight that I might not necessarily care about in my world, but it's fun to learn more about these guys, especially the defensive guys. We got some love in the chat. Gator J, who was on the last show. If you want to hear just how spot on our NFL or our Super Bowl takes were, Gator J joined us for that one. And the Bears, I guess we'll see, if they're going to bear it up, and if you think that's a good or bad thing, we'll find out here in a little bit. And then Rhodes, what's up, man? We're only got time for one round tonight, but maybe we'll see if we can do 2 rounds and 2.0. But only got time for one round tonight. And yes, it is hotel week for me here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is only one round. Like I said, all 32 teams, because your boy is I'm on the hot seat right now. We're packing, we're getting ready. I'm going down to the Florida Keys next week. So, well, I don't have a ton of time, but we got enough time set here to chat with you guys. Yeah, always time to have some fun, man. So, without further ado, man, let's flip a coin real quick. I got a coin right here. Who gets the first overall pick, me or Drew? Drew, what are you calling real quick?
Tails never fails, baby.
Tails never fails. All right, let's go. Oh, it's heads.
Tails sometimes fails.
Yeah, sometimes fails. All right, so I guess I'm putting on the Chicago Bears hat.
Yep, you are.
I am Ryan Pace right now. So, like I said, before we do this, 81 people right now joining us live. Appreciate all you guys. Just popping in. Like I said, this is what we believe teams are going to do. This is not exactly what we would do. This is what we think the teams are actually going to do. So, let's go ahead and get started, man. Pick number 1 on the clock. I'm Ryan Pace, and everything that's coming out from the scouting, the combine and Indy, everything that everybody's talking about, everybody's expecting, it's Caleb Williams. He's going to be a Bear. They're going to reset that rookie quarterback contract clock. That's a math. I bet you can't say that like 5 times fast. Rookie quarterback contract clock. Rookie quarterback contract clock.
You're gonna throw a cock in there real quick. You,
Yeah,
you go
real
come up
quick,
with
bro. Yeah, we're about to get censored on YouTube. Um, that's gold. But yeah, so Caleb Williams, there's a good chance Justin Fields gets moved here in the next few weeks. They're going to reset, their timeline for what they have, and it looks like Caleb Williams. Every indication is he's going to be a Bear. Obviously, we know the hype that's been surrounding him for the last couple years. Guy that can create, improvise, make things happen, and that's really like where the NFL is going now. Like you have to have a quarterback that can improvise and turn nothing into something. There are a few concerns, but we're not going to sit here and get into that. We're going to pass it off to Drew. So Drew, pick number 2, Washington Commanders. Or are they still the Commanders? Have they changed their name yet? Are they still rocking?
I think for now
It's
we're
like
the
it's like
Commanders.
every like
They're the
the last like
Commanders.
4 mock drafts, they've had like 3 different names. So
Yeah, right.
yeah. So I mean, so it looks like Drew is a new ownership there in Washington, new head coach there in Washington, and Drew, where do you think they're going?
So before I answer this, I want to ask you 2 questions. Number 1, would you take Caleb Williams number 1 if this was you? And then number 2, what's your dream Justin Fields landing spot, assuming they do take Caleb Williams?
Yeah. So me personally, I know this is like real off script. No, I would not.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is a bad. Like I still think he deserves to be top 3 pick, but he's just
Yeah.
not QB1 on my board. I think there's just too many concerns for me personally to feel good about it, as far as being able to play on time, being able to basically work within the structure of an offense, because that's what he's going to have to do in the NFL level. Like all these crazy plays that he's gotten away with in college, especially in the Pac-12, where defense is kind of like, if you want to play it, you can. If most of the time they don't want to play it,
Yeah.
these guys hit harder in the NFL. These guys, it's whenever you're running away from Pac-12 guys, it's a lot easier than when you got 300-pound dudes that are running, especially now after we saw the combine.
Yeah,
You got all these
those
300
dudes,
pound
man.
dudes running 4.6s, 4.5s.
Good
Freaking
Lord.
insane group of athletes. And so yeah, I think there are just more concerns, but I still think he is a franchise quarterback. He's just not quarterback 1 on my board.
That's fair.
And as far as Justin Fields goes, the dream spot for me, obviously, is probably everybody else's dream spot. It's Atlanta, man. If he lands in a Falcons uniform,
Mhm.
which
Yeah, man.
apparently that's probably not going to happen with the Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins
it sounds like
rumors
Captain
going
Kirk
on,
might be going that way, yeah.
which I think that would be awesome as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Justin Fields to me, like you pair him, they got a decent enough offensive line. Raheem Morris, obviously, we've talked about that hiring, how highly we both think of him
Mhm.
as a head coach and what he's able to do.
Yep.
And I think, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, you add Justin Fields and his ability to, stress defenses out with his legs and his arm. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, that would work. So,
I'm with
you
you.
know,
That's my favorite landing spot too. I'm with you 100%. And I wanted to throw that question to you because I thought last time we talked he wasn't your QB1, which I think is fine. I don't think he has to be a unanimous QB1. He is my QB1 still.
yeah.
I think a lot of his outer structure play was just out of necessity for what they had in college last year, and just him making the most out of what he could. And I think some of that will translate. We see some of it with
Oh,
Kyler.
yeah.
Kyler's had
Absolutely.
some really
Yeah, that stuff's
awesome
definitely going to
moments.
translate. Yeah, for sure.
But it's not something he's going to be able to do play in and play out. He is going to have to play in structure, which I think he can. Frankly, I don't think the structure was very good
Was
last year.
good. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
That's my opinion. But there's a lot of folks like Gator that is worried about Caleb Williams. I just appreciate the fact that you talked about your concerns about Caleb Williams without talking about he paints his nails or he cried after they lost or
No,
that's why I love talking ball with you, because
that's scary.
I hate that other shit. But I
Yeah.
appreciate you
If
voicing
anything,
your
I'm actually more
concerns.
appreciative. Like
I'm
for
glad he
me,
cries after a
yeah,
loss.
exactly. That means he
Like,
gives a shit.
it
Like
makes no sense because people
that's what
have
you want,
questioned his
right?
competitive nature, but
Yeah,
then they
that's what you want.
also criticize him for being upset that they lose. Like, which one is it? Make up your
'Cause I
fucking
know, like, for
mind.
me,
But
like, I mean, just me personally, even, like, as a man, like, I mean, I'll come out and say it, like, there's been times after like soccer matches where like we're playing for districts, we're playing for like cups, on traveling teams, back when I was younger, and you're so invested and you're so like you're giving everything you have and you come up just short. And
Yeah.
there were times even back then, when I was younger like that, 18, 19 years old, and we wouldn't get it done. And after the games, man, I would be in tears. Like I would cry. And it's because I cared so much and I gave everything I had to win that game. And it just didn't work out. So
Right.
I understand it from an athlete's perspective.
Yeah, you want
You
your
know,
guys to care, man. Like
yeah,
that's
for
a
sure,
good thing.
man.
That's a green flag if he's
Yeah.
crying after a loss. That's not a
Yeah.
red
Now the
flag, man.
fingernail thing I never did. I can't speak on that. That's not
Yeah, I look, I
but
didn't do it either,
look,
but I don't
to,
give a
to,
damn if you
to each
do.
his own. To each his own. You do
Yeah.
whatever you got to do to get ready to play the game. So
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely, man. Jorge, what's
Uh,
up, bro? Good to have you in the chat.
what's
And
up, Jorge?
perfect time too, because Jorge is a Commanders fan, and so the Commanders were on the clock with my pick, and I took a guy that he said he's coming around on for real football. I agree. So I talked about at the top. I'm more of a fantasy guy, fantasy football wise. I do like Jaden Daniels a little bit more than Drake May, just because of the unreal rushing ability he has, and
The
the
way the
the
way the
edge
game has changed.
the edge that gives you in fantasy
Yeah.
football with having a quarterback, the Konami code quarterback. But for real NFL football, I still have Drake May as QB2 behind Caleb Williams. I think this is where Washington should go with this pick. And I set you up with that QB1 question because I believe this is your QB1, not Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah, so Drake May is actually my QB1.
I thought so.
Um, I would be remiss. Look, I'll just say it too, and people are gonna fucking like go bananas at this.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I know it's crazy. Caleb Williams is actually my QB3, and Jaden
Oh no
Daniels is
shit.
actually my QB4.
Who's your QB2?
It's JJ, bro.
Oh
I know.
man.
It's wild. And I mean, like I said, to each his own, but I
Yeah,
just think
absolutely.
there's there's a lot there physically and mentally that I really like, and like people are gonna start like clicking off this. I already know they're gonna be like, "Fuck this guy," but it's just, like I said, it's just personal, and I don't have an issue at all with like where you guys want to like land it. Like I think there's an argument to be made for every single guy in this class to land wherever you want to land them. Like they like it's a talented class at the top. So um and that's what I'm saying is like whenever I say like Jaden Daniels is QB4, um, Drake May's QB1, Caleb Williams is QB3, like they're all still top like
Got
9
some Bo
players
got
on my
some Bo
board.
Nix fans too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I'm not a huge Bo Nix guy, but
Me either,
like
but
those
it's
4,
okay.
like I think they're all relative like possible like top 10 prospects. Um Now, I will say, like, this is, like, doing a lot of projection with it with, like, the JJ stuff, like, we're
He
talking
you
about
do
he's
have
gonna
to
need,
project, yeah,
yeah, like, 2 or 3 years down the line, but I can see a scenario if he lands in the right spot with the right coach who's able to get, the most out of his athletic talents and his arm, and just his like, what I always appreciated watching him was the way, like, he showed up in, like, situational moments, like, whenever they needed, like 3rd down conversions, 4th down conversions, red zone.
yeah,
Um, like whenever that's the type of stuff to me that translates to the NFL at a high clip is whenever you perform your best in situational, spots like that, that translates.
right.
So like that's something I appreciate. And then you add that stuff along with like the arm, the mobility, all that kind of stuff. I just think there's a lot there to like. No, I don't think 99% of people are gonna share that opinion, which is perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with that, but, um, yeah, I definitely it's like I said, it's just a weird thing, so, um
Hey, Chris likes your take in terms
hey,
of
I
how you
appreciate
broke
it,
down McCarthy.
Chris.
So, and I agree with you too. I agree with you too. I mean, the tools that are there, there's a lot to like, but you do have to do a lot of projection because
Yeah, and you gotta be
there's just
patient. You
there's
gotta be
not
patient.
there's not a lot of tape to take away with McCarthy because he wasn't asked of much at Michigan, and that's not his fault that the team was so damn good that they could just
Yeah,
run the
exactly.
ball
And
down
like,
your
I
throat.
mean, like,
But
also too, like, and I know, like, I don't want to get into like the QB wins thing and all that, but like, it really does mean something at that level to me. Like, he has a really talented team, but he didn't hold them. Like, this is dude, he lost one game his entire college career. He
and
lost one
he wasn't
game.
he a 5-star recruit coming into college too?
I'd have to check, but I know he was up there
I
for
think he
sure.
was. I
Yeah.
think he was a top recruit too. So I mean, he was a top recruit that went to a
Well,
top
he didn't I
program.
don't think he lost at all in high school. So, like, you're going in, like, this is a guy and, like, that could be a double-edged sword too because he's not used to losing, so how does he handle losing at the
Because if he
NFL
does
level?
get high draft capital, there's going to be some
Yeah,
losing that comes
there's a
with
good
that.
chance, like, you're gonna be losing some ball games for a couple
Yeah,
years, so, I mean,
I've
we
got
don't
him.
know.
I've got him QB4 personally. I think he's a step ahead of the next tier guys, the Bo Nix, why am I going blank on the other guy with
Penix?
Bo Nix? Yeah, Michael Penix. I think he's a step
I
above
love
those guys
Penix,
just
man.
because
I think
I
Penix is a stud.
he's all right. But like I think with JJ, him being as young as he is and having the tools, I think you have to put him above those guys because they are older prospects. And so if I'm an NFL franchise
Yeah, they're
with
way more
a
polished
younger kid,
products.
yeah. So no, I don't hate that at all. But so we got two quarterbacks off the rip. I think this is where it gets kind of interesting because New England always seems to be a wild card, and now they've got a new head coach at the helm. You know, what do they want to do? So what do you think they will do?
In all honesty, man, um, new head coach and all that, it's difficult because you wanna go quarterback here because I mean, I think most people now, like even me, like um guys that liked Mac Jones and kind of what he gave, like I think now we're far enough in his career to kind of figure out like, hey,
Yeah, he ain't it.
he's not your guy, he's not your franchise guy, and you
Yeah,
don't ever know when you're going to be back at this spot. You
right.
know,
I agree.
you because you hope this is it. Like you hope you're never picking at third again. Um,
Yeah, right.
and but like just there's just something in me like I just don't see them going quarterback, which is just weird. Like I can see them trading down out of this spot actually, but
Yeah, I
we'll
could
just
see that
go
too.
we'll just go here for what I think. Like I said, I think they're gonna go quarterback, honestly. Like there's something that tells me they're not, but I do at the end of the day, I think you've got to. You have to where you're at.
Yeah.
And so to me, like I think this to me, like I would go Jaden Daniels here. So this is probably the guy that you would take at this spot. Um, whole new regime there. You you've got some pieces like structurally, defensively, but there's not a very good offensive structure around him. Um, yeah, I agree, Jorge. That's probably where I would go if I was them because you're gonna have a little bit more of a time limit there. But Jaden Daniels, I will say this, like he's a guy that like you don't have to have a lot around him just right out of the jump because of
Right.
his ability to create and his ability to extend plays with his legs and all that. So you can kind of grow everything around him. So I think he can find success early on there. Even with it being kind of like a bare cupboard as far as, the wide receivers, the tight end room, offensive line questions. It's kind of weird to see like New England now like struggling at this level because they like I said, they don't really have a ton there, but there's
Yeah.
possibly enough that I think Jaden Daniels could come in with his skill set, and I think he could probably succeed a little bit better than the other guys.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that he would be better fit to have less around him just because of what he can do with his legs and not being as dependent on the playmakers around him and things like that. I think he would be a good fit there. Um, and yeah, like Chris said, Kraft wants a guy back there so badly. You know, whenever you had the GOAT as your franchise quarterback for as long as
Yeah,
they did, and then you go to having no answer at quarterback. And
yeah.
like you
It's a
said,
it's a different world, man.
as a franchise, you're not anticipating being back up in the top three again anytime soon. Like
And
if
even
you're
if you
expecting
are,
that, you
that's
got
what I'm
the
saying
wrong
is like,
guys in place.
yeah,
Like,
like, and even if you are back up there again, there's no guarantee that the quarterback class for where you're drafting in that class is going to be even near as good as this one is. Like,
right. A lot of people are
if
down
they're
on next year's quarterback
yeah,
class.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. If they're back up
Yeah.
there next year and there's, Sanders is gone, which most people are kind of shooing in as like being kind of like that guy next year. I mean, options are kind of limited outside of, maybe some guys popping out of nowhere next year, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we'll We'll see how it lands, but yeah,
Definitely, whoever lands in New England, we're definitely going to learn a lot about them and what they can
very
do
very early.
without this much around them.
But I
And
think Gerard Mayo, I mean, he's a smart guy. Even though
yeah,
like he's not an offensive mind, whenever you're a defensive minded head coach, you kind of are able to prepare your quarterback from the defensive side. So he'll be able to go over like, coverages with him and like this is the look the defense is giving you and kind of all that. So he'll get
right,
good coaching there.
yeah.
So
I do agree with Volcano that there if we were doing trades, I could very well see somebody, a little bit further down trade up for JJ here. Like it wouldn't shock me if it maybe even the Giants. Like there's been mixed signals of buyer's remorse for the Daniel Jones contract, which I thought it was obvious that was a terrible contract
oh
the
yeah.
moment they did it. But maybe they trade up or Atlanta at
Atlanta,
8
yeah.
or
Minnesota's a big
Minnesota
one.
at 11, Denver at 12, Vegas at 13. Like
Vegas.
there's room for somebody to trade up here. But with us not doing trades and just doing a straight mock draft, it's going to get as chalk as it gets right here because
Yeah,
I'm
we'll have
going.
trades and stuff like that whenever we get into our later mock drafts
Yeah,
and all
usually our
that.
final one, we put some trades in there, but for this one, it's as chalk as it gets, and I'm rolling with the chalk, and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. It's pairing with Kyler Murray. I saw a ridiculous tweet that said the only reason Marvin Harrison Jr. was the top receiver prospect is because of his name. And to that I say, why is Luke McCaffrey not getting overdrafted? Why is Brendan Rice not getting overdrafted? Marvin Harrison Jr. is that fucking guy. He's that good. And I know prospect fatigue is a thing. He's been this
Oh,
good for multiple years now. People are just tired of the same guys being good all the time. And I get it, man. I get it. But he's legit. He's a stud, man. I don't blame anybody that wants to make the argument for Malik Neighbors being right there with him.
yeah. Any
I
other
love Malik
class that
Neighbors
guy's wide
too.
receiver one.
Yeah, yeah. But you go back the last like 6, 7 classes, he might be the wide receiver two and like maybe one other one. Like depending on like how you feel about Jamar Chase as a prospect the year he came out. Even then, Jamar coming into the draft process, he had missed a year at that point. So, I just the prospect fatigue. Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. have been getting a shit ton of hate on
Oh
the
yeah,
internet, and
it's
I think it's just
ridiculous.
because people are tired of hearing about how good they are.
Yeah, I'm ready for the
But
draft to get here.
that's an easy pick for me. I think that's if you're not doing trades, I think that's about as chalk of a top four as it gets. So I think you can make things a little bit interesting here at 5, possibly.
Yeah, so this would be where I would kind of say the trade down is going to start happening.
Hmm.
I think this is a
I agree.
perfect spot for a trade.
The Chargers
That
have so many holes and no draft cap or
yeah,
no cap space to be able to address it. So they're gonna have to
and
do it.
going into this draft, I would have said, before they hired the coach and all that, like this would be a spot for like Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers. You could even argue like, Rome Odunze in there.
Yep.
But there's one thing about Jim Harbaugh, and he's done it everywhere he goes. You build in the trenches.
Oh,
You like
he's gonna establish it.
he will establish the trenches. That is the main engine for everything that dude loves to do. It starts up front, and if
Yeah.
you can win up front, it gives you a chance every Sunday to win ball games. And really, more than that, Justin Herbert coming off an injury as well this year, you got to keep
Right.
that guy clean. So to me, I think they go offensive line here, and the best offensive lineman in this draft to me is Joe Alt.
Okay.
And I think you have him and Rashawn Slater as your bookend tackles. You're
You're cooking.
Yeah, that's where you want to be at. So yeah, I think they go offensive line over offensive weapon.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I agree, man. I think that's where they go to. I would if we were doing like what we think they would do, I would or what we would want them to do rather, I would love to see, Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers in that offense because I mean
Oh
Keenan
yeah.
Allen is as reliable as it gets, but he's over the 30-year-old threshold. Mike Williams is getting older and constantly
Well,
hurt.
I think he's
Quentin
actually is he a free agent
No,
yet?
but
Or did they
he could be
release
a
him?
cut
He's
candidate
a
though.
cut candidate. Yeah.
And then Quentin Johnston, we saw how that first round pick worked out so far through 1 year. So I would love to see them get Herbert more weapons, but they also need to get him protection too. And I think that with us taking the approach of what do we think NFL teams are due, I think that is the Harbaugh pick. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
and Joe Alt, like about him, like this guy's probably one of the most talented offensive linemen to come out in like the last decade. Like, I mean, like this guy has everything you want as a prospect, and
QJ breakout
breakout
season
season.
in hives.
Hey, he might
Brutal,
if he
brutal.
learns to actually catch the ball, he could do something.
He's
So
gonna have the opportunity. I mean,
yeah,
that much is definitely clear.
yeah.
No, I like that pick a ton. I'm gonna have some fun here. I don't think quarterback is out of the question,
Oh, for
but
sure.
I don't with the contract they just signed Daniel Jones to. I think that they have to kind of try to prove that as a front office that they didn't completely fumble the bag with that with that decision, because if it ends up being a bust, it could end up costing everybody their job. So I think they're going to take one more swing at trying to get this guy some weapons. And I mentioned the one receiver that I would have in the same tier as Marvin Harrison Jr. is Malik Neighbors. I think the guy is a stud, and I think that he absolutely belongs in the top 6 of the NFL draft. And so, one last hoorah with Daniel Jones, get him another weapon, and see what he cooks up, because I don't think Daniel Jones is the answer, but he's also not getting a lot of help from the weapons out there. They're going to lose Saquon. That was his best. That was his
Yeah,
best receiver. Okay, and the dude's a running back. That was his best receiver. They got Darren Waller that's going to play his 3 to 4 games, and then just a bunch. They got every slot receiver in the league you can think of, and Isaiah Hodgins. And it's just, you got to get the guy some weapons to see if the quarterback you just handed out that contract to is going to be able to fulfill the contract. So I think they take one more swing at it, and they give him another weapon. I think Malik Neighbors is the pick here.
yeah, I agree. That's kind of where I would go. So now, like, how did I land on the Titans, man?
I'm
I don't.
so glad you got the odd pick so you could
Um,
get the Titans.
yeah. So can you do me a favor and just scroll
You want to
down to
scroll
about
as far as I can go?
yeah, so about the seventh
The
round.
UDFA range.
Yeah, so I think that would probably be right up their alley. No, if you could actually, let's go offensive line here.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's not go offensive line here. I
Okay.
like this is a little bit surprising, but I do think there's some depth in the offensive line in this class where I think their early second round pick they could address that. And there's a
Okay.
guy up here right now that's just so talented at such a crucial spot that they need, especially with Will Levis coming back, from his second year. I mean, they have not recovered from that AJ Brown trade at all. And Romo Dunze is just sitting right there, and
Yeah, man. Yeah.
that's to me like that. I really do think they'll prioritize possibly offensive line in like the second and third rounds. Um, Obviously, getting the offensive line coach that they got to come in there, having him, Callahan come from Cleveland. This is one of
Right.
the
It's huge.
most well-respected offensive line coaches, maybe ever, and
Yeah.
certainly today's NFL for sure. But the guy just works wonders along the offensive line. So I think you could actually kind of maybe say, "Yeah, I agree, Sarah, 100%." Uh, but I think you can kind of piece together, like I said, some of the depth at that the tackle and guard spots, and I think their left guard, guy they drafted last year, near the top of the draft. I think they've got that settled.
Yeah.
So I think really, if you have a left tackle and maybe focus more on some of that. There's some really athletic guys in this class that are probably going to be available in that second round that I think Callahan can really work some magic with. But Romo Dunze's sitting there, and this is very much like you remember like the Bengals meme where everybody was like Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase, but he's getting sacked.
He's getting sacked,
And,
but then
yeah,
Penei Sewell, but then he's throwing to
but
nobody.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing: the Bengals do not regret drafting Jamar Chase one bit,
Not
and
even a little bit.
I think this is going to be the same thing. I think they're going to take Romo Dunze, and I think they're going to be happy for years to come because I think that guy is an absolute stud.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think,
And I would
you
hate
know,
this pick as well. By the way, I I would
yeah,
hate
you don't want to see a guy you like end up with the Titans, right? But
twice a year. Yeah,
yeah, I think it's the right pick. I agree. I have Marv and Malik Neighbors just a tad bit ahead of him, but I think that Rome is a step ahead of everybody else, though. Like
I
I think
agree.
he's the clear number 3, behind
I mean, yeah,
behind the top 2 guys.
and I mean, there's even too some argument. Like, I wouldn't even. It's kind of same thing with quarterback, where like, you can make cases. Romo Dunze is wide receiver 1 or 2, and I would
Sure.
I wouldn't bat an eye. Like I would listen to you. It's
Yeah.
okay. The guy's just an absolute stud of a player, and to land him with pick 7, like this wide receiver class is just absurd this year. So
Yeah.
so yeah, this that would be my pick. So there you go, Atlanta, your second favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons.
This really is my second favorite
You
team,
you
man.
love this team.
I
They've drafted
loved it.
everybody you've wanted for like 4
Everybody.
years in a row.
Everybody. Arthur Smith was collecting infinity stones of all the prospects that I've loved over the years, and thank God that man is gone, so I can really love this team. They got rid of him and brought in one of my favorite coaches, and Raheem Morris messed around and brought in Zach Robinson with him to handle
Oh
the
yeah.
offensive side. Like I love all that. Full disclosure, if I knew that Kirk Cousins was going elsewhere, I'd probably go JJ here, honestly. But I'm going to operate under the assumption that they
That
land Kirk Cousins because they are the betting favorites to do so right now. So if they go that route, if Romo Dunze was on the table here, I would probably go Rome and just juice up that offense
Whew, whew,
because like they've got Pitts and Drake London as playmakers
whew.
on the as far as pass catchers go, but there's a lot to not love outside of those two guys. If you're not talking about the running backs with Bijan, obviously, their wide receiver 2, their wide receiver 3. There's a lot left to be desired there. But with that, with Rome being off the board, there's not a receiver I'm comfortable taking this early. I'm going to help out their defense a little bit. I'm going to give, I love their cornerback 1. I'm going to give him some help on the other side of the ball, and a guy that really impressed me a lot at the combine. And I don't know if this is a hot take because I don't know enough about defensive players to know if this is a hot take, but give me Quinion Mitchell at number 8,
That's not a hot
cornerback
take.
1 to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, that's not a hot take. Like this kid, I mean, and not only just like the combine, I mean, at the Senior Bowl, this guy was probably the best player on the field.
Yeah, that's a good
I mean,
point.
he absolutely just made such an impression on everybody at the Senior Bowl, and then to go what he did at the combine, and I don't know, do you see his bench rep numbers? Like,
I
I
didn't
mean,
see his bench numbers. No,
he benched the most out of every corner, every DB. He benched 20 reps of
of course
225.
he did.
Yeah,
Just
so I mean,
throwing
like,
that shit around.
yeah, I mean, like this guy's just he can do everything. So like you can line him up in man, he's comfortable. You can line him up in zone, like the guy just eats in zone coverage. Like his play recognition is so great. His closing speed, his recovery ability, like even if he gets beat, his ability to recognize and recover is so special that even if he gets beat, there's a good chance he's going to make a play on the ball, pass breakup, possibly even an interception. Like he's got, really good hands, good playmaking ability. Yeah, I think it's a toss up for cornerback 1 in this class between him and Terrion Arnold.
Yeah.
Um, and I I think Mitchell would probably get my edge as like my favorite DB in this class. And also too, like so like my brother-in-law, he's actually um he does some work with Toledo's quarterback.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's trained him since he was like in high school, and then he plays the quarterback plays at Toledo now. And yeah, Quinion Mitchell he's a special kid, special dude.
I love it. I love to hear it, man. So
Yeah,
we got the Bears are back on the clock. Their second pick.
Bears.
They can't pair Romo Dunze with Caleb Williams. That's I can tell you a lot of mock drafts I've done. I've just penciled him in there, but I love the fact that he's not on the board because I think he's worthy of a top 7 pick. But so now that that's not an option, where are they going?
So at this point, I mean, realistically, like you would love to see like Brock Bowers or an offensive lineman or something here.
Yeah.
I think they've kind of got their offense settled, honestly. I think with the trade last year, and I personally, I think Cole Kmet is a really good tight end. So I wouldn't necessarily go Brock Bowers just because of the positional value here. Um, I think they need defense. I think they need more defensive
Yeah, they do.
edge rush juice along that. So I'm going to go Dallas Turner here, the edge rusher out of Alabama. I think he's my pass rusher, edge 1, whatever you want to call it, defensive end 1.
Yep.
I just think the length, the explosion, the power that he's able to generate, speed to power is really special. The guy's just got like go gadget arms. Like his wingspan is like his wingspan literally is like 6'10", 6'11". Like it's
Yeah.
wild. So yeah, he's to me the best edge rusher in this class. He's one of maybe like two guys I think that has a chance to develop into like something really special as an edge rusher in this class. So I think they don't mess around. Obviously, they got Sweat, last year in that trade. So I think if you paired,
Played
Dallas
well
Turner,
too.
yeah, played really well, played really good. They got him signed for the long term, and I think with Eberflus being back another year, if you add another really talented guy opposite of him, like you let Caleb, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, they got a decent offensive line there. They could possibly add, like I said, this is a deep receiver class, so they could possibly get a guy in the second round. Let's worry about the defense. Let's worry about getting the ball back to Caleb Williams and allowing him to cook.
Right.
And Dallas Turner, I think, fits that profile to a T there.
All right. So for this next pick with the New York Jets, I think it should be an offensive lineman, but I'm going to be full disclosure here. I don't know a shit ton about the offensive lineman. So I'm going to ask you if I was a team wanting to get a tackle here, who is the tackle that I would want to go after? And that's going to be the Jets pick.
Well, so like you've got a few options, obviously. Yeah, I mean, you see like Fuaga down there.
Yep.
He should be good.
These were the two guys that I was assuming would be between with Fuaga and Fantuna. I don't even know how to say his
Yeah.
name the right way. I haven't done any research on the offensive lineman, but I would assume it'd be between these two guys. Is that wrong?
I like it could be for sure. I would be okay with that. I think Olu Fashanu
Yeah.
is an option there for sure as well.
Okay.
But there's a guy out of Georgia
Oh,
that
you go Mims?
yeah, that just absolutely annihilated. And like people might think this is a reach, but like this guy is like the definition of like Hercules, like a freak offensive lineman. Like um so
Hercules. Sorry,
yeah,
that
so
always
I mean
pops in my head every time I hear Hercules.
I know, I love that movie, man. Um, so yeah, I think like there's a chance like this guy. I know like PFF's got him ranked 23 and all that. There's a good chance this guy doesn't make it out of the top 12.
He did test really well. That much I
With the
did
show
see.
that he put on, and not even just the show, but like on the film as well. Like this guy just dominated the college game as well. So he's got everything you want. You know, at that spot. So personally, I would take Mims there.
Okay, let's go Mims then.
And
I was gonna take a tackle, but I haven't. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I've done any
yeah, I
work
think
on
it's gonna
tackles.
surprise people
But
just like, some of the guys that he might actually get picked over. I think they're gonna look at this kinda like what we're doing now, where you're kinda having to scroll down to find him, and, like, people are gonna see that, and they're gonna be like, "Wow, like, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy?" And I'm
right.
telling you, man, like, the buzz coming out of Indy about that dude is legit. It's real, and he's not going to be on the board very long.
So now is where it really starts to get interesting because we got some teams coming up that need a quarterback, and we've already got. First of all, Sarah, I love that you've been in the comments doing like your own mock draft, saying what you
Yeah.
think, like what players you think teams should be taking. I love that. Please keep doing that. Do not stop. But she's got JJ McCarthy here to the Vikings, and
I
I'm curious with it being your guy.
I agree.
Okay,
I think she's spot on, man.
I thought that might be coming.
I think this is probably where that conversation starts for him. Maybe a little bit earlier with trade ups and stuff like that, but since we're not doing that, um, I I think this is the spot for him, and I think it's a good spot for him as well. I think this is a really good scenario for him to walk into. So, um, yeah, I'm going JJ here. I think he's able to go into a really sound offensive structure. They're able to be kind of patient with him. Obviously, having Justin Jefferson is not going to hurt at all,
That
for sure.
certainly helps. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, you could certainly walk into a worse room of weapons for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'll take JJ here, which leaves you with Denver now. Russell Wilson's gone. Officially,
Yeah,
the
he
worst
is.
contract in NFL history officially. Um,
He
that
is.
is,
And Sarah, I've seen this pairing too. You're not alone. I've seen Bo Nix to Denver. Um, I can't do it. I don't think maybe I'm wrong. I don't think there's any way that he gets drafted this high, but that could end up blowing up in my
This
face.
this to me is a team that you're probably going to see trading up. I think they're going to try to go get their guy in this
Yeah,
class.
I agree. If they get a quarterback, I think it's because they moved up in the draft. So
I
with us not doing trades and sticking where it is, I'm just going to. It's a need, but I don't believe in drafting for need. I also believe he is one of, if not the best player on the board. Somebody that of the defensive linemen I've watched, because I think that there's. I'll just give I'll give you a little bit of an insight into my process. Whenever it comes to defensive players, I pretty much only look at the positions that I think the Rams might be considering with their draft pick. And that's been like corner and edge has basically been the only guys I've really
That's
looked at.
I mean, that's it for a lot of teams, honestly.
Yeah,
Corner
yeah.
and edge.
All the bad teams need quarterbacks, and all the good teams that have holes need cornerbacks. So, yeah, give me Jared Verse, man. I think the kid's a stud. I think he immediately fills in and is a productive NFL player from day one, and so and he feels the need on top of all that. So with us not doing trades, Denver not moving up and sticking pat, I can't plug in a quarterback right there. So I'm going with an edge.
Yeah, I agree. I think Verse has a really good, chance to go a little bit early. I think he's a really, really good player. Not quite as like twitched up as kind of what you would want necessarily, but
Yeah.
I think like the power that that guy's able to produce and his size and his length and stuff, it's special. So he, right along with um, Dallas Turner I was talking about, like there's 2 guys in this class that I think can be really special edge players. Um, he's the second one. So that's kind of where I would go here. And so yeah, Las Vegas on the clock.
Yep.
To me, this is pretty easy. They've been needing an edge rusher, basically, or not an edge, but a cornerback. They've tried for years to get that cornerback one. It just hasn't worked out for them. The best guy on the board left, like I said, it's a tie between him and Mitchell for cornerback one. In this class, it's Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I think this guy's going to come in right away, be a really, really good player for them. He's able to, really do everything you want from the modern day DB. He's got, really good size, good length, able to press up on guys. I think where he really shines at though is like, when he's in zone and his play recognition and is able to break on routes and stuff like that. I think that's where he really is able to shine. So that's where I'm going.
Yep. And so to follow up Sarah's comment, I've got the same player plugged in here. I think you need to get some offensive line help. They've taken some shots at offensive line, hasn't necessarily worked out. They took a shot at quarterback. I don't think that's going to work out either. Derek Carr, he's not the worst quarterback in the world, but
Look,
he's
man,
also not
it's
a
kind of like
franchise
the same
quarterback.
thing. Like if you need 15 yards, Derek Carr is going to get you 15 yards. If you need 35 yards, Derek Carr is going to get you 15 yards. He's just like as vanilla as you can get.
It's so
Um,
true. It's so true.
yeah,
So I've got Fuaga going to New Orleans here, and helping out that offensive line.
I think they'll be ecstatic with that if he falls down to where that
Yeah,
is. I
right.
think they'll
Yeah.
be ecstatic. All right,
That's so we've got 345 people on the live stream right now.
let's go, baby.
I'd be willing to bet with this being attached to your Twitter account, a
Oh
decent
God.
amount are going to be Colts fans that have been sitting here. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what the viewer
I
count
can't wait
drops
to
to after this
disappoint
pick.
343 of them.
You're about to make this pick, and at least half the viewers are going to drop off because they're Colts fans, and they're looking at the camera like, you know why I'm here.
Yeah,
And now
I know why you're here.
not only are the Colts on the clock, but it just happened to work out that Landon is on the clock with them, and you have the chance to just disappoint the hell out of all the Colts fans if you don't do. There's a player that's sticking out like a sore thumb, and I'm
There
just
is.
waiting for you to be like, nope. That's not
There
who it's
is.
going to be, and shock
Um,
the world. Even Sarah knows. I have to say his name. Sarah knows who she wants. She knows what the people want. But the question is, are you going to give the people what they want?
um, so let's go over some things first.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you sweat this out. So
I like it. The
obviously the
anticipation.
news that Drew Ogletree, he was cleared of, the charges and stuff. He's a guy at the tight end position that really shows a lot of promise for them last year. And even in his rookie year, Jelani Woods coming back. I
Oh,
know how
yeah,
much you
talk
love
about
him.
Jelani.
I
Oh,
know you
yeah.
love Jelani. So
Yes,
he's a
sir.
guy that if the injuries are finally past him, he's a guy that can produce. I think Will Mallory, who the Colts drafted in the 5th round last year, I'm a huge fan of his game in the passing game. So I think they've got 3 really, really talented guys at tight end. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and I think the spot where they're really kind of lacking is that wide receiver too. They drafted Alec Pierce. He hasn't really, produced a lot. Obviously, Michael Pittman got tagged today. So more
Well deserved. Give him the bag.
99.9% chance he's going to be back with the Colts because it's like the
Yeah.
not exclusive. So if another team does sign him, they have to give the Colts 2 first round picks. Um, but and the Colts can match it as well. So Michael Pittman's going to be back. Josh Downs had a great rookie year, but outside of that, not really a lot there in that wide receiver room, and they really kind of lack that guy that just has the juice just to just separate and take it because you have Anthony Richardson. This is a guy that his best quality as a passer is his arm and his deep ball and just his ability to just create explosive plays. And I think that's what they want to do. They want to get explosive. And Sarah kind of hit the nail on the head there. There's a guy here that just absolutely demolished college football last year, that um, demolished the combine this year.
He did
And
look good at the combine.
yeah, and I mean, he's a little bit raw, but like there's a good shot that I think that's the direction they go in. That being said, we're taking Brock Bowers right here. At 15. That being said, I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking about a guy like he's a consensus like top 5 player on the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably the best tight end prospect that we've seen outside of Kyle Pitts in the last decade. So, yeah, Q, I'm sorry, man. We're taking Brock Bowers. Well, Q's probably actually excited about that one. But
Yeah, I think he was saying, "Don't you say
don't
it,"
do
whenever
Brian
he thought
Thomas.
you
Yeah,
were
don't
gearing up
do it.
about
Yeah,
Brian
don't do
Thomas,
it.
yeah.
Realistically, there's a good shot for me. I think like the Saints or the Broncos or somebody like that. I think they take Bowers there. I don't really expect him to be there at 15. But during this exercise, he is. And this is a dude I think you can plug in right away. Um, Even with like what I was saying with the tight ends, like with Jelani Woods and Will Mallory and Ogletree, we'll see what happens with his situation. But um, he's different. Like this,
He
he's
is,
not he
absolutely.
is not just a tight end. This is a guy that is
Oh,
a
he
playmaker
would be the Colts wide receiver. I don't even wanna
too.
say wide receiver 2, he'd be the 1B to
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Pittman
exactly.
from
Like
the rip.
he's yeah, like just take the positional thing away. Like don't even look at what position he plays.
You are
This guy,
drafting him to be a
yeah,
wide
this guy is
receiver.
a playmaker. He's a yards after catch machine. He's a guy that you can like Anthony Richardson can just dump the ball off and at
Georgia
any
lined him up in the backfield.
yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
dude
like
can do whatever you want.
yeah, like he's just such a game changer. And Yeah, yeah, no problem, Rick. I appreciate that, brother. Um,
Colts fans are living
and the
good right
fact,
now.
like, I think the only hang up here for a lot of people is the position, because, like, you take a tight end this early in the draft, you're already paying him like a top 7, 8 tight end in the league. He's
Which I
already
think
getting
he will
paid.
be from the beginning.
Yeah, from the get-go. I agree. So you're paying him like that, whereas like there is more positional value at wide receiver because these wide receiver contracts are just going to get even more insane with this class coming up that's about to get paid.
Right.
And if you can have a guy in the first round, 5 years on a rookie deal, I think like that's a really big advantage at that wide receiver spot. But
Yeah.
Brock Bowers is just too good to pass up. And you pair him with Jonathan Taylor, Brock Bowers, Anthony Richardson, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Jelani.
Wheels up, man.
Yeah, and like I'll say this too, and then I'll end it. I'll let you pick. But like the weird thing is, like the Colts don't really run a lot of 2 tight end sets. They just don't. That's not really what they do. But I think even with that being said, you can really kind of see Brock Bowers slotting in kind of very similar to that Dallas Clark role, like where he is lined up as a receiver in the slot. Maybe they move Josh Downs a little bit more outside or inside. They kind of like swap them guys and So you have Jelani Woods on the field, and you have Brock Bowers lined up in the slot, and those seam routes are going to absolutely not, because if there's one thing Anthony Richardson can do, that dude can throw a seam, and they're going to annihilate. So yeah,
Yeah,
Brock
it's a lot of
Bowers.
fun. And at the end of the day, I don't give a shit what position you play. If there's a blue chip player sitting there
Yeah,
at pick 15, you
you're,
take him.
yeah. You're never good enough to not take great players,
Right.
no
Yeah,
matter
it
where
does
you
does not matter. Look, this next pick, we're just now halfway through and we're 50 minutes deep. So we're gonna fly through the second half. So sorry if you have a team that's picking the second half, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's a secret to know that the first half's always the more interesting part of the NFL draft anyway, at least for content purposes. But I think Sarah nailed it on the head. And typically I would be like, yeah, let's take a center in the top 16 picks, but everything that I've seen and read about this dude, because this is another area of need for the Rams, is that this
go. He's a
kid is
stud.
special.
He's good.
And so I think that, so, similar to the discussion we just had about Brock Bowers, I don't care what position you play. If you're that fucking good at what you do, you get picked here. And so it's both a need and best player available type of situation for Seattle here at pick 16. And as much as I hate to see them have a good player, I think Jackson Powers Johnson goes there. And then so you get to pick. You already got to pick for the Titans. Now you get to pick for another division rival with
Yeah,
the
what is
Jags
going
on the
on here with
clock.
the AFC South, man?
It's just lining up perfectly.
Jesus. All right, so there's two really big spots here that I would kind of target for them, especially with the Calvin Ridley news coming out this, that he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to get a chance to test the market.
Yep.
Who knows if he's going to be back or not? And so I think they need some wide receiver help to continue to help Trevor Lawrence grow. But I think their biggest need to me is DB. It's edge, or not edge, but it's in that backfield.
Corner. Yeah.
Like you have to, especially in a division now.
Especially since they just let go of Darius Williams too. They cut him. He was their best corner.
Yeah, he was a really good player. So maybe there's a chance they try to bring him back, um, but I mean, we just saw this draft. The Colts just drafted Brock Bowers. The Titans just drafted Romo Dunze. Obviously, C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Michael
Those
Pittman.
guys aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, like you're dealing with a lot of talented pass catchers.
Yeah.
And so I think for them, I'm going to take DB, and I'm gonna go Wiggins here out of Clemson.
Yeah, I like it. Nate Wiggins was another guy that put on a show at the combine as well. So I like that pick quite a bit. So Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. You gotta do what you can do. We talked about the meme already of Joe Burrow either getting sacked, throwing it to Jamar Chase, or getting protected by Penei Sewell and throwing it to nobody. He's got Jamar Chase. He has a little bit of an offensive line, but definitely still needs some help. And so I'm going to give them another offensive tackle here with Troy Fontenot from Washington, and hopefully give Joe Burrow some more time. Keep that man healthy, keep him upright, and let him distribute the ball to Jamar Chase and recently tagged. Oh my God, why T. Higgins? I don't know why I just went blank on his name. But so if they wouldn't have tagged T. Higgins, I would have considered a wide receiver here. But I think that's something that is a luxury that you can kind of push down the line, because I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is more than good enough of a duo. And you just got to give Joe some time to get those guys the rock. So Q was hoping you would give the Jags Spencer Rattler, which would have been fun. Yeah, hey, look, 2-3 years ago, Spencer Rattler would have been a value at this point, So, man, how things have changed, though.
Yeah.
So now you get to make the pick for my favorite team,
Man,
and
yeah, how did this?
I'm glad it worked out this way, honestly, because I want to hear somebody that is not a Rams fan make this pick as opposed to me making it. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on where the Rams go here.
Yeah, so there's really like two players here on this board that are left, which are like the two guys that I think have a high likelihood of being there, and being the pick. Obviously, offensive line. We know last year they struggled in that department a little bit in the pass blocking game. Not necessarily run blocking. I think they're really good at, in the run game, but I think, the pass protection could really use a little bit more, help there.
Yeah.
Note Boom didn't really live up to that contract and stuff like that. So, That being said, I also think DB. I think cornerback is a big need for them
Hmm.
as well. And there's a guy here on the board that I think is the perfect combination of scheme fit, athleticism, and really just everything I think that would really embody what a Rams player would be, and that's Cooper. Cooper DeJean. I think
We
his
got two
ability.
Coopers.
Yeah, so I mean, like his ability to play off the ball is really special. He's so smart. Like he's just one of those DBs that like he knows what route you're running before you run it, and he's able to really break on that route, create disruption. He's a willing tackler. And he was really one of the few bright spots on that Iowa team. I think he's a really good, really good football player. And I think he can step in immediately for the Rams and make a big difference on that defensive side of the ball. So now I'm curious where you would go as a Rams fan. What are you hoping that you guys end up with?
Oh, that's exactly where I would have went to. There
Oh,
would
so
have been
that makes me feel good.
there would have been uh one other player I would have considered, and that would have been getting Latu out of UCLA to just to pair with that, the
Aaron
defensive
Donald.
line.
Woo.
They knocked the defensive line out of the park between Kobe
Oh,
Turner
last year,
and
like
Byron Young.
yeah,
And
Byron Young pick was fantastic.
Byron Young, Kobe Turner, those two guys were studs, and then you've got Aaron Donald. So I just turns like it's something they turned into a strength already, but just overloaded. Like
Yeah, you can never have too many edge rushers.
here's where we are on defense. Here's our top spot. Try to stop us, type of thing. So like that would have been I would have been considering between Coop and the edge rusher there would have been where I was leaning. So I'm not mad about the pick at all. I like that. And honestly, if one of the top receivers starts to fall, I wouldn't be mad if the Rams wanted to trade up a little bit. It's very out of character for Les Snead. I don't think he would do it, and he would be much more likely to trade back than trade up. But Cooper Cup's not getting any younger. Puka Nakua is really the only reliable pass catcher they have outside of Cooper Cup. If you're going to push to be a contender, I think you need at a minimum three reliable offensive weapons to really contend in the NFL now. So, if for some reason a Romo Dunze or somebody like that starts to slip, I would love to see them try to trade up for that, or even Brock Bowers in the situation. Like Tyler Higbee suffered a terrible injury at the end of the year. I like the Davis Allen, the tight end they have coming in, but he's no Brock Bowers by any means. So I wouldn't be mad about that as well. So this one's tricky because I kind of had Jackson Powers Johnson. I think I pretty much write him in here anytime he's available, and PFF has linebacker listed as a need, but I can't take a linebacker at pick 20. So I'm going to stack the defensive line. I'm going to take what I think is the best player available here, and I'm going to take Byron Murphy off the board. It's not necessarily an area of need, but whenever you're at this point of the draft, I don't think you're supposed to draft for need. I think you're supposed to just take I believe you're supposed to collect some of the best players available, and I think that's where Byron Murphy is. So not necessarily what they might need as their best as what they would need as a team, but where I think they would go if this is how the board shook out.
Yeah, yeah. I personally, I think tackle would be a big need for them as well. I think Olu Fashanu being there.
Yeah, that was the other guy I was
Yeah,
considering.
I think that would be a really big pick. But it actually worked out for me because that's going to be my pick here for Miami.
Miami needs it too.
Yeah, so I think offensive line help for them is going to be big, and I think Fashanu is you're talking about a guy going into the year that we thought was a shoe in for a top 5 pick in this class, and then uh, to have him available at 21, I think they're probably doing backflips there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think just continue to build along that offensive line, keep Tua healthy. Obviously, like whenever you have an offensive line or an offense that you have Jalen Waddell, you have Tyreek Hill, you're going to want to take these deep shots. Well, the way to do that in the NFL, you got to have great protection. And so I think there's some things he needs to clean up as far as his technique and his play strength and stuff. But I think pass blocking, he's going to be a really good player. So yeah, I'm taking Olu.
I like it, and I like it. That was the other guy I was considering. So for this next pick with Philadelphia, there's I don't know. I just talked about this guy, so I'm going to take him here with Lad too. I don't know what their situation is with their pass rushers. I know that there's some speculation that they could be losing some guys on the defensive line this offseason. I don't know how that's going to shake out, but again, another scenario where even if it's just adding to a strength, I don't think there's anything wrong with that if he's the best player on your board, which I think could end up being the case here. And this was a guy that maybe I'm partial to him because I've looked at him a lot because he is projected to be in the range where the Rams are on the board. So maybe that's playing into it here. But I think that I think he should have already been off the board by now. So with the possible holes that could be created this offseason, by the time the draft rolls around, plug him in and help out the pass rushers there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so once again, I'm drafting for the whole AFC South somehow.
You really are. You really are.
I don't know how that ended up working out, but Texans coming off a really good season. Obviously, CJ Stroud's really good. I think you continue to surround him with talent, man. Like I do. I think
Ooh,
you've got Nico Collins there. You have Tank
Tank
Dell, who'll be
Dell,
coming back
yeah.
from an injury, playing in that slot.
They just
Good
gave Dalton Schultz a contract extension,
contract
3
at
years.
tight end. I think there's a good chance that Saquon ends up there, from what I've heard.
It's a lot of
So,
rumblings of it, yeah.
yeah, I think if you can pair them up with another guy that can, create and stuff like that, I'm gonna take Brian Thomas Jr. here, out of LSU, and just let him and Nico Collins and Tank Dell just wreak havoc.
Dalton Schultz, yeah,
Yeah,
ooh, and if they do bring in Saquon, Lord have
Yeah,
mercy.
now I would have taken Latu if he was available here. That would have been my number one option for them because I was like Greenard's going to be a free agent. You've got Will Anderson, but there's just not really a lot outside of him in that pass rush game if Greenard's not coming back.
Yeah.
So I think Latu would really kind of be the best case scenario for them. But with him off the board, I think they look to add another wide receiver to pair along with CJ Stroud there in that group. And to me, Brian Thomas would probably be that wide receiver 4 in this class for me. Um, and obviously his ability to take out, like, can you imagine running like stacks with like him and Tank Dell?
Lord have mercy, man.
How are you going to defend that? That's just stupid. So,
Yeah.
making life harder on Indianapolis with every pick.
So this next one is interesting for me because the news came out that Tyron Smith is not coming back to Dallas. So I think that creates an opening for some offensive line help needed there. Um, they I think wide receiver could be an option here, depending on if they like a guy in the class. Because outside of CeeDee Lamb, the you got Brandon Cooks, you got Michael Gallup, guys that aren't the most dependent. And I love Brandon Cooks. He as far as his career goes, he's been incredible. But at this point, he's not a guy you're going to rely on. And you got Jake Ferguson at tight end, who is so. I don't think he's that great of a talent. I just think that he put up some decent numbers because Dak Prescott loves throwing to the tight end position. So I think wide receiver could be in play here, and there's some guys just pulling up the board real quick while we're here talking. There's some guys that are really interesting. Lad McConkey made a lot of noise at the combine. Same for Adonai Mitchell. He ran that blazing 40 that it was blazing until Xavier Worthy ran the 40. And then it wasn't blazing anymore. Troy Franklin didn't have a great weekend at the combine, but I'm not going to ignore what I saw on tape from him. I still like Troy Franklin quite a bit as well. I think receiver could be an option here, but they do have a need at the defensive interior. And Newton is there. He according to PFF, he's the 11th ranked player overall, and we're sitting here at pick 24, so that could be a good value. But there's also the tricky piece of, do you want to take an interior defensive lineman in the first round? J.C. Latham with the opening created at offensive line, I think there's a lot of directions that they could go here. So before I make the pick, I would love to know, because it's outside of receiver, it's a lot of positions I'm not as familiar with the players. If you were sitting at this pick, if you were the Cowboys GM, where would you want to go with this one? And then I'll reveal what my pick is going to be.
I think this is tough too. I agree because, with not having, their left tackle be back, and I mean, I don't really know necessarily enough about the Cowboys I don't know if they've got somebody kind of waiting in the wings there,
Yeah, I don't know that either.
to kind of take over. So that's going to be a little bit, tougher as far as that goes. But I do think, without Tyron Smith, now being there. That's a team that just historically puts such a premium on offensive line, especially
Right.
offensive
Yep.
tackle talent.
Yep.
And there's some really talented guys here on the board that's probably where I would kind of pencil them in at.
Yeah. So I agree. That's where prior to the Tyron Smith news,
I think
I
like
probably
Tyler
wouldn't have
Guyton could possibly be a pick there as well for them. The tackle. I don't know.
from
Latham,
Oklahoma.
yeah, from
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I think
Yeah.
that's kind
So
of a good spot.
I plugged JC Latham in just because he was the best available tackle, and I don't know a ton about the offensive lineman as far as that goes. But I do think with the Tyron Smith news, I think that whenever I read that, that was where my mind went, was that would go they would go that direction as far as offensive lineman goes. So, um, it's kind of beautiful. I got to pick for my second favorite team. I got to
Yeah.
pick the Falcons pick. Now you get to pick for your second favorite team. You get to go ahead and be the Packers GM and decide where they go here.
Yeah. So I mean, this is gonna be tough for me because there's not really a lot of like cornerback talent now that's there, like in this range. So I can really see
Right.
moving down
Yeah.
at this spot. Um, because there's kind of rumblings like Jair Alexander's probably like might be traded, might not be back. Um, that's a light room for them. I think they need a safety here as well. I think the safety play, but how lucky are you as a franchise to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now you have another seemingly franchise quarterback stepping
Jordan
right
Love
in.
looked good. Yeah.
I mean, like that guy looked phenomenal. I think they need offensive line help. And that's the guy that I was just talking about. I think Guyton, I think he's a really, really good player that's going to be able to step in day one and kind of anchor that left or right side, whichever side you kind of want to stick him on. But to me, I think he was probably be more of like a left tackle guy for me. I would just kind of stick him there and see if he can pan out there. But that becomes your priority is keeping your franchise quarterback upright. And as much as I would love like a guy like Cooper DeJean or Nate Wiggins to fall to this spot, like that would I would probably take tackle there if both those guys aren't gone. But if they weren't, I would. That's probably where I would go for them is DB.
Yeah. I know. I like that. So Tampa Bay's on the clock here. I think if something fell through with Baker and they didn't bring him back, I think this could be a spot for quarterback. But I think that they brought back Mike Evans. Him and Mike Evans had a great connection last year. I would be shocked if Baker and the Bucks did not work something out for, even if it's just like a 2, 3, 4 year deal, whatever the case may be. I think Baker's back personally, so I don't think that quarterback is necessarily a need for Tampa. So Bo Nix, Michael Penix, those guys, they're kind of out of the question here for me, assuming that Baker's back. And I'm looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry here to try to strengthen up the defense a little bit. They got Antoine Winfield there at safety. Hopefully they're going to get him an extension. Lord knows he deserves it with how he's balled out the last few years. So giving him some help in the secondary and getting McKinstry there at the back of the first round for Tampa.
Yeah, so now we got Arizona's second pick. This one's coming from Houston. Obviously, drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Earlier. So it
Yeah.
says wide receiver. I don't really know if you need. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Especially with them possibly losing Hollywood Brown.
Right. There's some decent options at receiver here.
Yeah, for sure. But I think their biggest need is on the other side of the ball. I think they have to get
Yeah,
defensive line help.
I agree.
Got to have defensive line help. And Jazar Newton somehow is still on the board. I don't think he will be here if I'm being completely honest with you. But this is a perfect match for them. If this happens, like they're coming out of this draft like doing cartwheels if this is their first two picks in the first round.
Yep.
So that's where I'm gonna go.
No, I love it, man. I love it. I don't love it because I don't want any NFC West team to draft well, but I think it's a smart pick. So next on the clock, the Buffalo Bills, and look, they've got Stephon Diggs. We know who he is. Don't mistake the weird stats they got put up in the second half of the season. Stephon Diggs is still he's still the guy. He's still one of the best receivers the NFL has to offer. But outside of that, they invested in Dalton Kincaid. Gabe Davis is a free agent that's expected to walk. I like Khalil Shakir personally, but whenever you have a franchise quarterback like Josh Allen, and again, make no mistake about it, the dude is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't give a shit about wins and losses, shit like that. The man is literally putting the team on his back as
Yeah.
much as he possibly can. Do not get it twisted.
Yeah, like every
He
team, maybe except for like one or two, would
would
take
trade their
Josh.
quarterback for Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're going to get this guy some weapons. And, I think Lad McConkey, he's in the discussion. Troy Franklin, he's in the discussion. But I think with the size that Enani Mitchell has, along with the speed that he showed at the combine, I think that he's going to be the pick here. I'm going to pair AD Mitchell with Stephon Diggs and give these guys some more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I think Keon Coleman could possibly be fun here just because I think his skill set could match well with Josh Allen, but it's almost a knock on Keon Coleman by me saying that because Keon Coleman, I don't believe, really has the ability to separate. And Josh Allen's one of the few quarterbacks that's like, you don't got to give me a big window. I'll fit it in that shit
Yeah.
regardless of what you. So, like, I think Keon Coleman would be a good fit, but I don't think he's the best receiver available, personally. And AD Mitchell, I loved his tape at Texas and at Georgia. And then the combine showed me that he had the explosiveness that I was somewhat questioning on tape, but I like his route. I like his route running. I like the size, and I like the explosiveness I saw at the combine. So I think if they go receiver here, I think Mitchell's the pick.
Yeah. All right. So that gives me with the Lions here. This to me, you like, and I know it says like guard and center and all that, and like they are kind of aging there, but
Yeah,
I think they're still good along
they
the
still have a
offensive
good
line right
offensive
now.
line. Yeah,
Yeah. So, um, to me, the biggest need for them is going to be edge rusher. Like they've still got to get somebody opposite of Aiden Hutchinson that can create some pressure. Because right now it looks like Aiden Hutchinson and the Funky Bunch. And right now we got 403 people in here with us. That's wild. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're
yeah,
almost through this.
absolutely.
And there's a guy that just stands out, and he doesn't really have the production you want to see for a first round edge rusher,
It's
but
chop,
he
huh?
has every tool that you want. And
Yeah,
with the coaching I think he would receive there in Detroit with Dan Campbell, I think this guy could really develop, alongside Aiden Hutchins, because it's not going to be all on him day one. Like he's a guy that can come in, third down packages, kind of supplement the pass rush, and as he kind of grows into his game, still got to learn, how to use his hands, how to create, violent moves and stuff like that with his hands and stuff. But he has twitched up, fast, ridiculous first step. That's Chop Robinson.
yeah.
And I think
As
if you
soon
kind
as you said lacking production but needed an edge rusher, I was like, oh, okay, he's going chop.
yeah, yeah. The guy, like I said, you look at the stat sheet and it just doesn't jump out at you. But
Right.
you look at the athletic numbers, you look at, you kind of watch him play, and you're like, man, like if you can just kind of slowly bring him in, develop him, continue to work on him with that pass rush skill set and those moves and his hand placement and stuff like that,
Yep.
he can be a dude. And that's for sure. I think would be a really good pick for them.
Yeah, I know. So Sarah agrees. Chop Robinson to
I
Detroit.
love.
I think that that's a great spot too to let him develop. I think that that's a great environment for him to be in to push him to develop that skill set as well. So, Baltimore Ravens, another one of my favorite teams, purely off the fact that they have Lamar Jackson and Rashad Bateman. That's pretty much all you need for me to be a favorite team of mine. But I'm gonna give Lamar some help here because the reality is, as much as I love Rashad Bateman, the man has not been able to stay on the field, and I hope that changes this upcoming year. But they got Mark Andrews coming off an injury. They have Odell Beckham Jr., who is on a 1-year deal. That I will never, ever, ever stop giving Lamar more weapons anytime I have the chance because the dude's incredible, as he has shown now, multiple MVPs. Miss me with the quarterback wins, miss me with the playoff wins bullshit. Lamar is doing everything that he can do for that franchise. And if you're not convinced yet, I don't know what that man can possibly do. But I'm going to give him some more weapons, and I'm going to give him a pure separator, a guy that, as far as college production goes, there's not a lot of it there. But whenever you watch what he did at the combine, and then if you just watch the tape and watch how he has some DBs in fits, I mean, the dude is a route running machine. Give me Lab McConkey with Baltimore and with Lamar Jackson. And it might sound like a weird fit, but me personally, I love it because I think it gives this offense something a little bit different that Rashad Bateman has to offer, and those guys, it's him and Zay Flowers working together. I just feel like would be a ton of fun and would
Oh
give
yeah.
would make things a little bit easier for Lamar. And for fuck's sake, Baltimore at some point make things easier for Lamar. Stop making him kill himself to get you guys a few wins every year. So just watching those two guys work together, watching Mark Andrews, I think that it would be a ton of fun personally.
I agree. I think that would be a really good fit for them. But
It's happening,
this
Chris.
this works
It's a
out.
back end, but it's
This
happening.
works out absolutely perfect for me because Drew, your second favorite team, the
Oh, fuck off.
San Francisco 49ers. What's like really the one big area that they still kind of struggle with? That's the interior offensive line. They
Oh,
still need.
I thought you were going to say quarterback, but
No,
okay.
they're good
Interior
on
offensive
quarterback.
line.
They've got a franchise guy at quarterback. They're good. But I really do think this is a team that they've just got so much talent. Like you really almost kind of take best player available here, and it just so happens that the best player available is really at a spot that they need. They need interior help there, interior offensive lineman. This is a guy I think can slot in day one at guard and be a possible like Pro Bowl level guard from day one. And with the way they use the running game with Christian McCaffrey, keeping Brock Purdy clean is going to be a big thing for them. That's Graham Barton right there at the top. I know it
Yep.
says tackle, but to me, I think he slots inside a little bit, better in the NFL. And I think he just comes in just right away and it just makes, yeah, I knew where you were going with that one. That's like the easiest pick of all time, right? Like everybody knows that's like this is going to happen.
We know
Uh,
what's up next.
yeah, so yeah, Graham Barton, slot him in at guard. Yeah, it's a really really good pick. Can they trust
Yeah.
him?
So we don't really have to, question what's going to happen here too much. I feel like after the combine, and it's funny because you know just watching his tape, the guy's fast, but then whenever he's faster than fast, whenever he makes the fast guys look not fast, and he has it's not just a fast thing either. The dude has the production to back it up. Like whenever I've seen so many tweets, it's like, oh, Xavier Worthy broke the combine record. He ran less than a 4.2.
I heard I
Here's
keep
the
yeah, John
here's
Ross comparisons,
here's
but
the
I'm
here's
like,
the other receivers that ran that fast at the 40. It's like, okay, now take those guys and look at their freshman, sophomore, junior years and compare that to Xavier. Xavier Worthy was more productive just as a freshman than most of those guys were for their entire fucking college career. So, like, this is
that's
not
kind
a
of why it's
pick.
crazy to me. Like every with like Adana, like AD Mitchell going above Xavier Worthy because I think Xavier Worthy is the better wide receiver, like for Texas. So to kind of see like the guy that really played like second fiddle to him go above him, basically just based off of the size, like it's just kind of.
This is also a big point. Is Quinn Ewers just fucking stinks? Okay, like
I don't think he
he
stinks. I think
he
he's got
does. He
stuff to work
stinks.
on, but
Well, that's just a nicer way of saying he stinks, but tomato, tomato. But yeah, no, Xavier Worthy is absolutely a Kansas City player, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
all Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes is going to have the NFL in fucking fits, try to figure out what they're about to do with this guy. So yeah, Xavier Worthy's the pick. I was plugging him in already.
Reading our draft. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I was about to close this out, but let's see what. Oh,
Did
maybe
we
because
get a
I'm
grade?
not subscribed.
I was gonna say
I'm not
we didn't
subscribed
get
to
a grade.
PFF
Oh
Plus. Oh
well.
yeah, subscribe to PFF Plus to get your draft graded. No, thank you. I don't think I will. Um, I love you, PFF, but I'm not giving you any of my money right now. You know that wraps it up. That I can tell you the one pick I struggled with was what was Baltimore. I wanted to fit a receiver there. I don't know if Lad's the guy. I don't know if he ends up being a first round pick. He might have worked his way into being a first
I
round
think
pick
there's a
with
good
what he
chance
did
he
with
is.
what he did at the Senior Bowl, with what he did at the Combine. Maybe he is. I don't think he's a first round player, but again, we were not doing what we thought should happen. We were doing what we think NFL teams should happen. So that was the one at the end I kind of struggled with. But I could very well see NFL teams spending a first round pick on Lad McConkey, which is crazy to me. I don't think he has the metrics or production profile to warrant that, but I could see it end up happening. So, Chris, appreciate you, bro. You're one of one. Love you to death. To all of you, 400 plus fucking people that made the choice to hang out with us tonight. I know mock drafts are always a banger, and we're always set up to either piss off or please a lot of people. Hopefully, we please more than we pissed off. But hey, you know, pissed off, pissed on, whatever. I'm either way. I'm glad that you're here. Landon, man, 1.0 is in the books.
It is. It feels good. It feels good. And the good thing about this is like this is pre-free agency. So now like we get to go through the free agency process starting like next week. The tampering period starts. Teams are able to kind of talk to guys. And then you guys are all welcome. I got plenty of Brock Bowers.
Colts fans
Uh,
left happy for sure.
yeah. And now the next time we do this, we're going to be even a little bit more informed because now it's like, some of these guys that we talked about, like they've got a hole here, they got a hole here. Those holes are going to be plugged. And
Yep.
now we're able to kind of sit back and like really analyze like what's really the best player position combination for this team to be moved on.
Right.
I I agree, Chris.
And Sarah too.
Sarah, she knows what's up.
Yeah.
She's smart. So
1.0 is in the book, man. Send us home.
yep. So if you guys did enjoy this type of content, you love the mock drafts, you love just talking football, just shooting the shit, hanging around. This is the type of stuff that me and Drew and Jared, whenever he's here, this is the type of stuff we do. Like if we're just hanging out, like we just
Yeah.
happen to be doing it on the internet. So if
Yeah,
you enjoy
right.
this type of content, just make sure you like, subscribe, go follow us on Twitter, follow Drew. If you're a fantasy player, especially Dynasty, this dude is like the GOAT. Like, um, you
Love.
gotta you gotta follow him. His handle is right there, and yeah, it's just been a fun time. So we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and just get ready because after free agency, whenever we get back in the lab, I get back from Florida. Drew gets back from his hotel extraordinaire wherever he's at this week. Just make sure to like I said, subscribe, hit the follow, like it, and we'll be back for mock draft 2 after free agency.